brought, some catch that they've gotten so that they're welcomed. Like, we have something to share with you. Now let us hopefully let us be safe here for the night. And she's just maybe telling stories about the most recent journey that's led her here. Nothing to do with the sand, just where we've been out on the desert for days, we very, very boring stories, right. Making sure to not spill anything.
Okay. So that is a consideration. Now, there is one more consideration that will be of relevance and may entail some decisions for you. But before we do that, let's cut way back across the landscape, all the way back to the Great River. And there we have our tense confrontation. Now, as I understand it, we have Ferrith, we have Athasha. You are in that region that I gave you the map for last time. And you have Had, who is sort of looking back and forth between you. And I should probably describe him a little bit more. If we kind of cut to human thinking instead of duster thinking, this is a man who is older than Ferrith, who is, I have to think, culturally is a little tricky. We've been very vague about the human culture and its specifics. So however you want to imagine the culture in question, he is not dressed in fine clothes. You might think of them as somebody who it's not quite horse-oriented or animal-oriented enough to be a ranch person. And it's not specific enough to be somebody who works down at the docks unloading boats or managing boats. But it's in that realm, in that zone of clothes, and a little better than just a worker. So he's not wearing anything fancy, but it's all pretty good in quality, and can see, and obviously in some cases, like his boots, has received a great deal of use. And this is a hot, dry climate. He doesn't wear, a cape. He doesn't have any kind of a coat or whatever, but everything is fairly practical, I would say. And he does have something that he can buckle on his chest that goes around diagonally around his back where you keep things. He does have one of those. As far as his appearance is concerned, he doesn't have any dramatic scars, but his nose may well have been broken once in his life. He's got his hair clipped fairly short, which is not actually all that usual among the working humans. They tend to wear their hair longer. There are several reasons to cut your hair short. One reason is because you don't want someone grabbing it in the fight. That's one reason that might be relevant in his case. And so in that, you'll notice he doesn't have earrings, which is also not unusual, right? That kind of ornamentation is perfectly normal in this culture, and he doesn't have any of those. It's not as though he doesn't have any ornamentation at all, just very little. One is that he is wearing around his neck and in all the action, you've probably seen it. He does have around his neck a curious little icon or symbol on a leather loop, and it you haven't had a good look at it yet, but that is the only ornamentation you've seen. And yes, and he has those cool glove / bracer things that his fingers go through, right? So fingerless arm pieces that you slide on, your fingers stick out and they go up to the elbow, and along the bone of the ulna, anybody who knows anything looks at it and realizes that they're reinforced right along that spot. So these are classic, skilled, very brutal sword work. They're not military. So this is a classic. It's almost like carrying around brass knuckles. Not quite as threatening, not quite as obvious, but wearing these means that you will wade in with your sword and your elbows, and be good at it. So does that help a little bit with kind of appearance?
Yes,
yeah.
But
and also, yes, of all the men that we've seen in all of our games so far, this is the first beard.
Okay.
Right, because he's human, right, and so he has, and it's not a fancy beard. It's not big and luxurious. It's not shaped. It's just he just cuts it. That's it. So okay, that's Had as I see him anyway. And at the moment, he's looking back and forth just to give you a glimpse of his internal process. Fareth had assured him that Ithasha had saved his life many times, and that he was okay with her being along, right? He was saying, "Where's that woman?" And Fareth says, "Don't worry, she's with me. She saved my life. I trust her." And now there's this business of these sands and your confrontation. So what does anyone say to anyone?
Just a quick question before we jump in. He didn't hear the whole conversation, right?
Correct. He had stepped away. So I guess when I say he's looking back and forth, that's when and if he, comes back to see how it's going.
Yeah, I didn't even expect that speaking in Duster would do anything in this case, because I'm sure the guy knows.
Well, a lot like Listas, at the very least, he can speak basic Duster and understand very basic things. Listas was able to get those,
which is my level anyway.
Right.
I am adept initiative,
right?
Maybe.
Okay.
So.
And so that's about as. So he is capable of that, but he and also he works for Stasiva, who is half Duster, and how much Duster she knows, though, because she's clearly integrated into the human community like some half Dusters. You don't really know how much she speaks that language, but speaking some wouldn't be crazy. So before
I've talked too much anyway. I'm not going to transit.
Oh, sure. Well, maybe I should be clear based on what you just reminded me of. Before Had reintroduces himself to see how the conversation has gone, time is a little sensitive as far as he sees it. Before he does that, do you two have anything else to say to one another?
Well, considering where we left off, I'm going to ask Ithasha, if you were to decide, if you had the power to make the decision. Where would you take the sands? And I stress again, I don't think it's the sands that is carrying this around.
It's probably them being close to me or anybody as me. And that makes me think it would be a good idea to get them as far away as possible from everybody.
There is the option of taking them back where we got them, but the guy won't take it well, and I don't think we have a chance right now of subduing it. So, besides, I'm acting on a hunch. This is not something particularly rational, but to me, taking the sands to Cecilia is the right thing to do. I mean, maybe the way to placate the ire of the ghost is to show one of the twins, make them confront each other.
Actually,
I don't think Cecilia.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think Cecilia is going to be. I mean, from what I know of her, is going to be rampaging in saying, "Okay, let's take revenge on everybody." She's well adjusted. She has made a life for herself in her community. She's doing fine, and I don't think she's going to say, "I'm going to give up on all of this to go on this revenge quest." Maybe she will be able to.
Why does she want them then?
I think she wants. They are valuable. The things I can do, or rather that I said I can do with them. I need to level up once to be able to do them. Anyways,
Probably should be possible by now, but go on. I've been irresponsible about your experience points again. But
yeah, don't worry. It's just I'm just worried that at some point people will ask me to make some levels, and I would be like, hey, yeah. But anyways, the things she wants to. This is valuable stuff. It's going to bring status, and I'm not an expert, and I think this is uncharted territory for all of us. But if I had to make a wild guess on anything that can stop that ghost, I think a weapon made with the sand is what I would make my bet on. I have no grounds to say this, but
well, you did make your monster knowledge roll.
Yeah, so maybe
the legendary about it would suggest as much. A little bit on the lines of, well, some ghost is coming after me, so I went to the grave and I used, the stuff from the grave to make my thing to fight the ghost.
So what I'm thinking is that we go back. I use the resources. I make a weapon, and then you or one of us use it to stop the ghost. Ideally, maybe Cecilia would even. I don't think this ghost has any friends where we will be taking the sands.
I cannot stop you.
Or will you come
I cannot see if that is right or wrong, and I cannot stop you.